Heartwarming discovery. Just 5 seconds a day transforms lives by slashing stroke risk forever. In the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, where the ancient oak trees whispered stories of resilience, Sarah felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. At 35, she was a devoted nurse, a single mother, and caretaker of her aging father, a proud war veteran. Despite dedicated efforts, each day felt like a race against time, a burden heavy with the dreams of a better life she desperately wanted to achieve. As she tended to her elderly patients at the local hospital, her heart ached for the stories of lives lived fully, yet she couldn't shake her fears. Worry etched on her brow, she paced through the hallways, her eyes reflecting the exhaustion that filled her bones. The thought of her father's failing health kept her up at night. She loved him fiercely, but her energy was waning, and her own health remained an afterthought amidst the demands of caring for others. One fateful afternoon, while performing a routine check on Mr. Thompson, a kind-faced man who had once traveled the world, she noticed the glimmer of reminiscence in his eyes. "If only I had embraced those moments more," he whispered, words caught in the frailty of his body. In that moment, Sarah felt a pang deep in her chest, a reminder that life was fleeting, and she was running out of time to take care of herself. She overheard a conversation about an astonishing 5-second exercise that promised to reduce stroke risk. Skeptical but desperate for hope, Sarah took a leap of faith. Little did she know, this simple act would ignite a spark within her. A few weeks later, she began to feel lighter, a strength awakening in her that she thought had long disappeared. Encouraged, she turned to social media, transforming her personal journey into something far broader, sharing snapshots of her own progress. Her neighbors, facing their own battles, began to rally around her message. Hope surged through Maplewood like wildfire, as lives intertwined with newfound encouragement. Yet skepticism lingered in the shadows, a quiet voice reminding her of how easily dreams can fade. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Sarah decided to organize a community health event, determined to confront skepticism and promote the exercise that had changed her life. As preparations unfolded, doubt crept in. Would the town welcome her bold ideas, or would they ridicule her attempts to ignite change? The night before the event, she received a phone call that shook her to her core, a family emergency requiring her immediate attention. The reality of her father's health took the spotlight, and Sarah felt torn between her duty to her family and the hope she yearned to spread. As dawn broke on the day of the event, hesitation echoed through her mind. Surrounded by the tight-knit community that had always supported her, she stood at a crossroads. Could this day lead to unity, or would it inevitably shatter her dreams? The air was electric with anticipation, yet tension hung like fog over the gathering crowd. Would her voice be heard, or would she be left standing alone, suffocated by expectations and self-doubt? The stirring questions filled her mind, leaving readers gripping their hearts, desperate to know what came next. As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm golden hue over Maplewood, Sarah felt her heart race. The community center was buzzing with energy. People had gathered, some sipping coffee, others chatting in small groups, while a handful of kids ran around, laughter weaving through the air. It was a beautiful day for connection, yet Sarah's mind was split. Part of her was right there, present, but another part felt pulled away by worry. With a deep breath, she approached the small stage set at one end of the hall. She could sense the eyes of her neighbors on her, warm yet expectant. The weight of their hopes and skepticism gelled into an almost tangible fog. And as she stepped up, she felt the familiar twinge of doubt. What if they laughed? What if her father's health took a turn and she couldn't deliver her message? But then she thought of Mr. Thompson's words, a gentle reminder that life was indeed too short not to embrace every moment. Each life had its struggles, and she was no exception. Clearing her throat, she smiled. "Thank you all for coming today. I know we're all facing different battles, but I believe we can make a difference together, even if it's just 5 seconds a day," she declared, trying to inject her voice with hope. The crowd shifted, curiosity sparking in some eyes while others remained doubtful. She continued, "What if I told you it's not only about health, but also about being present in our lives and for one another?" With each word, her confidence grew. She spoke of her journey, the challenges she faced, and how that small routine had begun to change everything for her. As Sarah shared her story, she looked out into the audience, noticing familiar faces. The elderly couple from down the street nodded encouragingly. A young mother in the back wiped away a tear. Those small connections ignited something inside her. Suddenly, the door swung open, and in stepped a figure she had expected but hadn't wanted to see. Her father, frail but standing tall, his uniform neatly pressed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah's heart swelled with love and something more profound, a deep desire to make him proud. He had always been her hero, and to see him smile, even amidst his struggles, made her relentless determination echo louder. "Sarah," he called gently, pride spilling from his voice. "I managed to come. Show them what we can do." A surge of warmth enveloped Sarah. She glanced at the hesitant crowd once more, and beneath the fear of failure, she felt an invisible thread of connection weaving them all together. Each voice mattered. Without another thought, she invited her father to join her on stage. "Let's show everyone how easy it is," she said, her heart racing with excitement. With tentative steps, her father joined her, encouraging everyone to take part. "It only takes 5 seconds," he added, his eyes glimmering with enthusiasm. As the community followed their lead, laughter and movement filled the center, a palpable wave of hope replacing doubt. Sarah couldn't believe the shift. People were joining in, letting go of their reservations, mingling and sharing stories. She felt alive, connected, and embraced by the spirit of her town. But amid the joyous laughter, a small voice called out from the back, "But how do we maintain this? What comes next?" The words hung in the air, laced with a hint of doubt and concern. As Sarah caught her father's eye, a sense of urgency sparked a question in her mind. Could this be the beginning of something bigger, or was this merely a fleeting moment of joy? As the laughter faded, a new determination washed over her. She would not let their newfound hope disappear. "Together we can continue this journey, one step at a time." But would they take that leap of faith with her? Sarah's heart pounded, knowing that the next step might change everything. The crowd looked at her expectantly, and she realized this was only the beginning. The chatter in the community center faded into an expectant hush as Sarah felt the weight of their gazes on her. Each face held a mixture of hesitation and curiosity, and in that moment she knew she had to give them an answer, a way forward. "We can start by making small changes," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. "Each one of you can take just 5 seconds a day to check in on someone else, a friend, a neighbor, or even just someone you pass by on the street. It can be as simple as a smile or a genuine, 'How are you?' There's power in connection, and that's what we need now." Sarah's heart raced as she scanned the crowd. She saw a glimmer of understanding in many eyes. The elderly couple had leaned in closer. The young mother was nodding slowly, processing the idea. Encouraged, Sarah pressed on. Imagine the ripple effect. If each of us commits to just 5 seconds, we create a network of support. We won't just be individuals fighting our battles. We'll be a community leaning on each other. She glanced at her father, who was smiling, his eyes shining with pride. She took a breath and continued. These seconds add up. They have the power to forge connections, to lift spirits, and who knows, those 5 seconds could prevent a stroke, reduce anxiety, or even save a life. A murmur rippled through the room. Sarah was shaking, but allowed the passion to swell inside her. Think about it. In moments of darkness, it's our connections that light the way. At the back of the room, a familiar voice called out again. It was Mark, a local firefighter and a man known for his resilience, who had fought his own battles. What if we don't know how to reach out? What if people aren't ready to listen? His tone, though gentle, carried concern. Sarah took a moment to gather her thoughts. That's the beauty of what we're creating. We don't have to be perfect, we just have to try. Maybe you'll reach out and find someone who needs that connection just as much as you do. It's about building trust, and that starts with stepping out of our comfort zones together. She felt the energy shift in the room, a current of hope tying them closer. As she spoke, she envisioned the changes they could create. Community events, health fairs, gatherings where people shared stories and built bridges. Let this be our mission, she declared, her voice filled with conviction. For the next month, let's commit. Let's take 5 seconds each day. Come back in 4 weeks and tell us how it's changed your life. You'll be amazed at how little acts can become monumental moments. Applause broke out, first timidly, but soon filled with enthusiasm. The elderly couple was the first on their feet, followed by others. Laughter returned, mixed with claps and cheers. As the excitement swelled, Sarah felt a flood of relief wash over her. This was it, the spark she hoped for. But then her heart sank slightly as she caught sight of Mark again. He had remained quiet, his brow furrowed in thought. She approached him. "You've got this look, like something's troubling you," she said softly. "I'm just worried. What if it fails? What if people don't show up? What if they don't care?" he questioned, vulnerability evident in his voice. With a reassuring smile, Sarah replied, "What if they do? What if we create something beautiful together?" They stood there, uncertain yet hopeful, believing in the possibility of connection. As Sarah glanced around, the laughter and applause still echoed, but the seeds of doubt remained. Would everyone be ready to embrace this idea when the initial excitement faded? With a deep breath, Sarah realized she would need to nurture this newfound hope. Let's come together and remember why we started this. But would the flame stay lit in the days to come? That was a question hovering in the air, and Sarah was determined to find the answer. The next morning, Sarah woke up with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The community center buzzed with life in her mind, but the lingering doubts from last night clung to her like morning fog. She grabbed her phone, heart pounding as she checked for any messages. There was nothing yet, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to do something, anything, to ignite that initial spark of change. After an invigorating shower, she dressed quickly, slipping on her worn sneakers, her comfort in times of uncertainty. She stepped outside, the crisp air greeting her with a fresh promise. Walking down the sidewalk, she resolved to check in with her neighbors personally, as she had urged everyone else to do. First stop, Mrs. Thompson. The elderly woman often sat on her porch and always wore that knowing smile. Sarah knocked on the door, and within moments, Mrs. Thompson opened it, her eyes lighting up like sunflowers in bloom. "Sarah, it's so good to see you, dear," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, pulling her into a gentle hug. "I just wanted to see how you're doing," Sarah said, stepping back to look her in the eyes. "Oh, you know, just keeping busy with my gardening." She waved her hand dismissively, but her voice cracked slightly. "What about you? Have you thought any more about that speech you made?" Sarah's heart swelled. "I'm trying to get the word out and make sure our community stays connected. It's important." Mrs. Thompson nodded knowingly. "You have a good heart, my dear. I've been feeling a bit lonely since my late husband passed. Sometimes it's just hard to reach out, even when you want to." There it was, the raw honesty that Sarah had hoped for. "You're not alone, Mrs. Thompson. I'll check in on you every week. Maybe we can sip tea together and share our stories?" Mrs. Thompson's expression softened. "I'd love that." Feeling emboldened by this small success, Sarah continued down the street. She knocked on doors, checked in on families, and offered smiles like they were gifts. Each interaction, no matter how brief, built an invisible thread of connection. By noon, she was buzzing with energy, her fears quieted by the encouragement she had received. It wasn't what she had envisioned for the community yet, but it was a start. Later that afternoon, Sarah gathered her courage and rounded up some friends to brainstorm ideas for their first community event. They met at the park, sprawling out on picnic blankets beneath the warm sun, snacks scattered between them. "What if we organized a 5 seconds of connection day?" one friend suggested, lighting up the group. "We could have booths where people share their stories and connect with each other." "That's perfect!" Sarah exclaimed. She felt the excitement sparking among the group. "We could invite local health organizations to join us. We'll create a day that celebrates connection and collective well-being." Emboldened by this newfound momentum, they traded ideas like they were fireflies in a warm summer night. Laughter echoed around them, each sound weaving into the fabric of camaraderie. As dusk settled, Sarah caught sight of Mark from a distance, standing alone near the park entrance. His brow was furrowed again, a mirror of the worry they both felt. She walked over, her heart racing. "Hey, I was just thinking about you. We're planning an event to kick off our project. You should join us." Mark shifted his weight. "Yeah, I heard the buzz. But what if no one shows? What if it flops? I understand the fear. But if just one person has a better day because of this, it's worth it, right?" Sarah met his gaze firmly. Mark crossed his arms, his tough demeanor softening as he glanced around at the gathering crowd. "Maybe," he began, uncertainty still hanging in the air. "But what if we don't reach the people who really need us?" The question hung between them, heavier than they expected. Inside, Sarah realized the challenge had just begun. Would they be able to reach everyone? The evening shifted into a moment of silence, and Sarah's heart thudded. "Mark, what if together we find a way?" As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah felt the weight of hope rest on her shoulders. Would their efforts be enough to sustain the connections they had sparked? The answer was still unknown, a challenge just waiting to be embraced. The following morning, Sarah awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The echoes of last night's conversation with Mark lingered in her mind, stirring both excitement and anxiety. She glanced at her phone, still no messages. It struck her again. This was about forging connections, not just within her neighborhood, but reaching out, spreading the warmth she had felt from Mrs. Thompson and her friends. After breakfast, she decided to take a different route, walking through a part of the neighborhood she usually overlooked. The cool breeze skimmed over her skin, and she inhaled deeply, savoring the freshness of the day. Today, she wouldn't just talk to familiar faces. No, she would actively seek out those who may feel trapped behind closed doors. The first house she approached seemed quiet, too quiet. It belonged to the Gomez family, who had just moved in last month. Sarah hesitated a moment, then knocked, feeling both nervous and excited. The door opened, revealing a teenage girl with huge, hopeful eyes. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said, trying to radiate warmth. "I live down the street. I wanted to come by and see how you're settling in." The girl smiled shyly. I'm Mia. We're okay, I guess. It's all a bit overwhelming." Sarah's heart ached a little. "I understand. Moving can be tough. Can I offer you a lunch invite this weekend? We could introduce you to some of our neighbors." Mia's smile grew wider. "That would be cool. My mom and dad could use some friends too." The interaction lifted Sarah's spirits immensely. She continued her journey, her footsteps gaining confidence. For each new household she visited, there was an exchange of stories, of laughter, and shared experiences. She felt the tapestry of the community beginning to weave together. By midday, she returned home feeling like she had struck gold after a long hunt. Each door she knocked on had opened another path forward. She couldn't forget Mark's words, though. What if they didn't reach those who truly needed them? A nagging thought remained. Later that evening, she called a meeting with her friends again. They gathered at the community center, faces illuminated by the warm overhead lights, buzzing with energy and ideas. "What if we added a Connect a Friend booth to our event?" a friend named Lisa suggested. "People could write letters of encouragement for those who might feel isolated." "That's brilliant!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. It could be the exact gesture that reached someone feeling lost. As the group brainstormed, the excitement was contagious. They spoke rapidly, hearts racing with the possibilities. Sarah's mind kept drifting back to Mark, though. She needed him to be part of this. Afterward, she made her way to his house, determined to persuade him. She knocked on the door, her heart hammering. Moments later, he opened it, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Hey, Sarah," he greeted, hands slipping into his pockets. "Mark, can we talk? I have some amazing ideas for the event, and I think you'd really want to be involved," she said, her words tumbling out hurriedly. He leaned against the doorframe, skepticism etched on his face. "What if it still flops?" "I get that fear, but just imagine how much those letters could mean to someone feeling lonely. What if we could spark hope in just one person?" Her heart raced as she spoke, believing in every word. He studied her for a moment, and she could feel the weight of his indecision. What if she could show him that vulnerability and connection could be powerful enough to bridge the gap of doubt? "Okay," he finally said, his voice softening. "I'll join, but only if I can help write those letters." Her heart soared. "Absolutely! Together we'll make a difference." As they began to outline their plans, laughter filled the air, and for the first time, the heaviness of uncertainty lightened. But in the back of Sarah's mind, there was still that nagging question. What would happen when they finally opened the gates of connection? The answers awaited just ahead, leaving her nervous and excited all at once. The next morning arrived with a soft golden glow, sunlight flooding through Sarah's bedroom window. She was up early, energized by the possibilities that lay before her. Today was the day they would officially launch the Connect a Friend booth at the neighborhood event. Her mind buzzed with excitement and a sprinkle of nerves. What if no one showed? But she quickly dismissed that thought. This was about more than numbers. It was about heart. After breakfast, she threw on a comfortable outfit and headed to the community center. The room felt alive, filled with cheerful chatter and the scent of fresh coffee. Mark was already there, setting up the booth. His brow was furrowed in concentration as he arranged colorful stationery and vibrant markers. He looked up and smiled when he saw her, that easy warmth spreading from him to her. "Hey, ready for this?" he asked, as he placed a bright blue box labeled Letters of Hope on the table. "More than ever," Sarah replied, her heart swelling. "I can feel it, Mark. We're going to make a difference today." As they prepared, friends and neighbors trickled in, their curiosity piqued by the colorful display. Families were drawn to the booth like moths to a flame, sharing laughter and exchanging playful jabs. Sarah watched in awe as people picked up pens and began pouring their thoughts onto paper, pouring out words of encouragement like soup into a bowl. What if we wrote letters to specific people, Mark suggested. I know a few lonely seniors in the neighborhood. It could mean the world to them. His idea struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. Yes, let's do it. We can make their day brighter. As they wrote, friends and neighbors trickled in, their curiosity piqued by the colorful display. Families were drawn to the booth like moths to a flame, sharing laughter and exchanging playful jabs. Sarah watched in awe as people picked up pens and began pouring their thoughts onto paper, pouring out words of encouragement like soup into a bowl. What if we wrote letters to specific people, Mark suggested. I know a few lonely seniors in the neighborhood. It could mean the world to them. His idea struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. Yes, let's do it. We can make their day brighter. As they wrote, Sarah observed the room, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. Strangers were connecting over stationery, their smiles illuminating the space like fairy lights. A little boy sat next to an elderly woman, both giggling as he scribbled crayons across the page. The pure joy swirled around them, and Sarah's heart felt full. But then a shadow of doubt crept in. What if no one reads these letters? What if we're just wasting our time? Mark paused, looking straight into her eyes. We're not wasting our time. Just being here today, connecting, means something. You have to believe that. Sarah took a deep breath, absorbing his words. She had invited people to connect, now it was her turn to trust in the journey. Suddenly, a whispered voice broke her thoughts. "Excuse me." She turned to find an older man standing slightly away from the booth, uncertainty in his gaze. "I heard about this. Could I write a letter too? I have something to share." "Of course," Sarah beamed, her heart swelling with encouragement. "Please join us." As he approached the booth, Sarah felt something shift in the atmosphere. Each word scribbled, even from a single individual, carried weight. A connection was blossoming. She felt it deeply, like planting seeds that would one day bloom into something beautiful. As the day unfolded, letters transformed from mere words on paper into tangible connections. People shared snippets of their lives, their dreams, their sorrows. But Sarah felt that familiar twinge in the back of her mind. What lay ahead? Would the connections they formed today sustain themselves after the event? The sun began to set, casting a warm hue across the room as the final letters were penned. Sarah turned to Mark, both of them breathing heavily, faces aglow with satisfaction. "We did it," she whispered, taking in the vibrant tapestry of emotions woven throughout their community today. "Yeah," he nodded, his eyes shining. "But now, what's next?" As Sarah looked around the room, she felt another surge of possibility. What if this was only the beginning? "Let's reach out beyond these walls," she said, excitement bubbling. "We can organize more events, create consistent connections. Imagine what could happen if we keep this going." Mark's eyebrows rose and a smile spread across his face. The challenge hung in the air thick with potential. "You're right. We can't stop now." With hope lighting their path forward, they exchanged determined glances, ready to embark on their next adventure. What had they just tapped into, and how deep would it go? The questions lingered like the fading light, waiting to be explored. The excitement in Sarah's heart was electric as she and Mark plotted their next steps. They stood surrounded by the remnants of their successful event, a cascade of colorful letters, and the chatter from the remaining families ruffled the atmosphere. The energy was palpable, a reminder of the connections they had sparked. "All right," Mark said, tapping the table gently for emphasis. "How about we host another event, but this time more structured? We could create workshops focused on writing, sharing stories, or even art therapy sessions. There are so many people in our community with untold stories." His eyes gleamed with a mix of hope and determination. Sarah nodded enthusiastically, her mind racing. And we can collaborate with local schools. The kids would love it, and it'd be a great way for them to interact with the older generation. Imagine their faces when they learn from someone with a whole lifetime of experiences. Her voice danced with excitement. She could already envision the laughter, the shared wisdom. This wasn't just about letters anymore. It was about forging connections that would persist and flourish, like a garden tended with care. Before their conversation could spiral into further ideas, the sound of laughter interrupted them. A group of kids had wandered over, curiosity shining bright in their wide eyes. Among them was the little boy from earlier, still clutching his crayon masterpiece. "Can we write letters too?" he asked, his voice a mixture of eagerness and shyness. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, kneeling down to meet their eye level. "Do you have someone in mind you'd like to write to?" He looked thoughtful for a moment, his small finger tapping his chin. "What about my grandma? She misses me a lot." "That's perfect," Mark added, excitement bubbling as he swiftly grabbed some paper. "Let's help you write the happiest letter ever." The kids gathered around, and Sarah felt her heart swell as they each picked up their pens, their little hands moving furiously. There was something beautiful in their innocence, their unfiltered joy spilling onto the pages. As time sped by, Sarah and Mark collaborated with other parents around the booth. Ideas flowed, igniting a flame within each individual present. One older gentleman who had been writing sat back to share a touching story, his voice filled with warmth. "You know, I used to table at events like these back in the day. It's heartening to see this happening again." Mark leaned forward, enraptured. "You should tell us more. This is what we need, the stories that connect us." By the time the skies outside began to darken, the room felt transformed. It was no longer just a community center, it was a refuge, a haven where shared experiences bonded them all together. Just before they decided to call it a day, Sarah felt a sudden urge to share her own thoughts. "Guys," she said, clearing her throat, her voice breaking through the hum of conversation, "what if we created an ongoing project, like a monthly letter exchange or a newsletter to keep everyone updated on our activities? It could unite our community even more." A chorus of agreeing murmurs swept through the group, and she caught Mark's eye. He looked absolutely thrilled at the prospect, his smile wide and proud. "That's a great idea, Sarah." But as the energy buzzed around her, doubts flickered in her mind. They had ignited something incredible today, but could they keep it burning? Would people stay engaged, or would this fervor fade like the last rays of sunlight through the window? "Let's brainstorm on how to keep it fresh," Mark suggested, his voice bursting with positivity. "I can set up a group chat for everyone here so we can share ideas easily." "Perfect, and we could schedule a follow-up meeting." The persistent fears were simmering in her mind, but she pushed them down. The excitement of the moment overshadowed it. The event had ended, but it felt like the real journey was just beginning. As Sarah picked up the last of their materials, hope flowing through her veins, she glanced at Mark. "Do you think we can really do this?" With an encouraging smile, he replied, "We absolutely can. Together, we're unstoppable." She smiled back, warmth infusing her with newfound resolve. Still, an uneasiness lingered at the back of her mind. What challenges lay ahead? What obstacles could threaten their budding movement? The door to their next adventure stood wide open, just waiting to be walked through. The air buzzed with anticipation as Sarah took a deep breath, looking around the community center one last time. The bare tables and scattered chairs felt like evidence of a day well spent, yet deep within her, a whirlwind of uncertainty churned. Mark's excitement had been infectious, igniting hope in everyone around them. But now, as the sun dipped below the horizon, tilting the room towards darkness, her enthusiasm felt fragile, like a flickering candle. Mark pulled out his phone. "I'll start the group chat right now." He was still riding high on the energy they'd created. As he tapped away, Sarah could see his confidence radiating. She was grateful for his spirit. It was grounding. "Hey, anyone want to help me gather the leftover materials?" Sarah called out, trying to both engage with the group and distract herself from her swirling thoughts. A couple of parents moved to assist, but as they packed things away, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was just the beginning, yet the path forward was clouded with doubts. Suddenly, the little boy from before popped up again, his eyes sparkling. "Miss Sarah, can we do this again next week? I want to write to Grandma some more." His innocence tugged at Sarah's heart. "Of course, we'll share your letter with her," she replied, kneeling again to meet his gaze. "Yay!" he exclaimed, his joy spilling over in giggles. It was moments like this that reminded Sarah why they started, but even the sweetest smiles couldn't brush away the uncertainty in her mind about sustaining this connection long term. As they wrapped up, one of the mothers approached her. "I've been thinking," she started, clearly weighing her words. "You know the senior center next door? They've been looking for ways to engage with the community. Maybe we could bring some of this magic there, share stories, write letters." Sarah's heart raced at the idea. That could be incredible. We could reach so many more people, provide them with a chance to share their stories. But will they be interested? "I think they would. Everyone has a story to tell, right?" The woman smiled, her enthusiasm seeping into Sarah's doubts. It was like the light of the boy's joy had sparked something new in her. After exchanging ideas, Sarah walked over to find Mark, who was still deep in conversation with some of the older participants. The way they shared laughter and stories warmed her heart. This was it, she thought. Whatever fears she had could be overshadowed by moments like this. "Mark," she called, her voice cutting through laughter, "what do you think about hosting an event at the senior center?" He turned, a grin spreading across his face. "That's brilliant! We can invite them here too, a back-and-forth exchange." "Yes, and maybe we can build something like a pen pal system." The thought poured from her, bubbling with excitement. But just as the thoughts flooded her, another shadow entered her mind. The logistics would be a nightmare. Would they have enough supplies? How would they draw people in? Little feet raced past her, laughter trailing. A vortex of laughter and warmth where their fears couldn't touch. "We can figure it out, right?" she asked, glancing at Mark, who nodded confidently. The sky turned darker outside, shadows creeping in as they prepared to leave. There was so much potential ahead, but also an unmistakable weight of reality. She wanted to cling to the hope, but knew it would require so much strength and perseverance. The group broke up slowly, excitement still palpable. As she brushed her fingers through her hair, thoughts of challenges danced in her. Would they really be able to maintain the interest? Could they create a culture of sharing and joy? "Hey, Sarah," Mark said, breaking her thoughts. "What if we made a little video tonight? Just to share our journey so far. Show everyone what they're a part of." Her heart skipped a beat. Not only was he proposing action, but it also meant documenting all that joy. "Yeah, let's do it!" But the tender excitement warmed her only briefly. Could they genuinely capture something authentically impactful? As they fumbled for the camera and set it up, Sarah's thoughts spiraled again. It was time for them to step out of the shadows. She had to believe in their mission. And just when everything felt right, an unexpected voice rang out behind her, bringing an unsettling chill. "I hope you're ready for what lies ahead." The words hung in the air, electric and ominous, as Sarah's heart raced. What had she willingly opened the door to? The atmosphere shifted, the weight of that voice pressing down on Sarah's chest. She turned slowly, scanning the dimly lit room. Who could have spoken those words? Shadows flickered, concealing anyone who might have lurked there. Mark noticed her hesitation. "Sarah, you okay?" His eyes were wide, concern creeping in as he stepped closer. She began, but cut herself off. She pushed the feeling aside. It was just a stray comment, surely nothing to worry about. Let's focus on the video. She steadied the camera, trying to redirect her energy. As the lens turned towards them, she found herself in the moment. Okay, hello everyone. We're here to share some amazing news about our project. Mark jumped in, his usual enthusiasm rebounding. We had a fantastic turnout today. There's so much joy in writing letters and sharing stories, and we want to keep this momentum going. With each word, Sarah felt her doubts lift, just a little. The laughter and chatter of the participants flitted in her mind, each smile shining brighter. Yet, as they spoke, that lingering voice echoed, haunting the periphery of her thoughts. She nodded along, hands clasped tightly, fighting against the gnawing anxiety. At last they finished the video. Sarah dropped the camera to her side, a relieved grin on her face. That felt good. I think people will really connect with this. Definitely. And you know, maybe we should share it with the senior center too, like a teaser of what's to come, Mark suggested, his excitement contagious. Great idea. I have some ideas for what we could include. But as she spoke, the earlier jolt of foreboding crept back in. Should they even share their plans with everyone? What if she was getting ahead of herself? Sarah? Mark interrupted her thoughts again, and as she looked up, his brow was furrowed, serious. You seem distracted. What's going on? Talk to me. She hesitated, unsure how to translate that knot in her stomach into words. It's just the voice. Heard earlier, she confessed quietly. It felt strange, ominous. He narrowed his eyes, considering her. You think someone's doubting us, trying to cast shadows on what we're building? I don't know, she replied, a wave of frustration crashing through her. She wished she had all the answers. Mark stepped back, picturing the community around them, and then turned back to her. Listen, if someone's trying to call us out, we just need to stay focused on our purpose. There's so much good happening here. Right, she nodded tightly, grappling with her own fears. And we can't let that get to us. With the night deepening outside, they began gathering their things, but that sense of doubt still gnawed at Sarah. Sarah! The little boy from before appeared again, a crumpled paper clutched in his hand. Look, I wrote a letter to my grandma. Can you read it with me? His innocent smile grabbed her heart and squeezed. Of course, sweetie, I'd love to. As they sat, she watched his tiny fingers tracing the words, the anxiety in her heart momentarily replaced by warmth. But still, that voice echoed at the back of her mind. What lies ahead? The night ended, and Sarah walked home feeling a mixture of joy and confusion. The energy of the group had been infectious, yet there was still a storm brewing within her, clouds of uncertainty hovering above. Could they handle the challenges ahead? Would they rise to the occasion? As she settled into bed, her mind raced with possibilities. The sound of a notification pinged from her phone, breaking through her worries. It was a message from Mark. We need to talk. I have an idea about how to involve the seniors that might be a game changer. Excitement bubbled up, but so did apprehension. What was he thinking? As her eyes fluttered with the uncertainty of sleep, that voice haunted her dreams. Instead of the promise of connection, it whispered questions that begged for answers. Is she really ready for what comes next? The following morning dawned crisp and bright over Maplewood. Sunlight streamed through Sarah's window, illuminating the warmth of the day, a stark contrast to the turmoil still gripping her heart. With thoughts of Mark's message swirling in her mind, she drew in a deep breath, casting off the remnants of doubt. Today was about moving forward, not spiraling back. As she prepared for the day, Sarah's thoughts settled on the community. The laughter from the previous night echoed in her memory, a tuneful reminder of the strong bonds they were creating. Stepping outside, she felt the invigorating chill of the autumn air, each gust nudging her towards her purpose. After a quick coffee stop at the local cafe, where the barista greeted her with a hopeful smile, she headed to the community center. The familiar building felt alive, almost humming with anticipation. As she entered, she saw a mix of community members buzzing and setting up. The Connect a Friend initiative had garnered interest, and that spark was only growing. Sarah spotted Mark immersed in conversation with a group of seniors from the local center. She felt a surge of pride for what they were building. They were slowly dismantling the walls of isolation, brick by brick. She approached them, heart swelling with exhilarating hope. "Hey everyone, what do we think the next step should be?" Mark grinned at her suggestion, the vibrant enthusiasm lighting up the room. They shared ideas, each more innovative than the last, the allure of storytelling weaving their lives together. But then, just as they were gaining momentum, a murmur spread through the group. A few familiar skeptics were on the sidelines, whispering doubts and casting wary glances. Sarah caught snippets of their words, doubt creeping into her heart again like an unwelcome fog. They won't last. Just a gimmick. What happens when the excitement fades? Sarah's heart sank, the light dimming momentarily. But before she could spiral, she caught Mark's eye. He smiled reassuringly, as though sensing her distress. He leaned in and whispered, "Don't listen to them. We're creating something real here." Inspired by his steadfastness, Sarah took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Let's not focus on skeptics," she announced, her voice ringing out with newfound strength. "Instead, let's celebrate what we've already achieved. Every connection matters, and every letter we exchange means something to someone." The room quieted, and she saw nods of agreement from her neighbors. There was something about the way they all leaned in that lifted her spirits. This was a collective heartbeat, a community united, and skeptics could not cage it. "Let's share our stories, our dreams. We need to reach out, try new things, and support one another with love, even when it gets tough." Her voice grew louder, fueled by the warmth radiating around her. "Let's form a community circle where we gather to share our journeys, where we can spill our thoughts over dinner, laughter, and letters. We can inform everyone through a newsletter that buzzes with life." Applause erupted, and voices chimed in, sharing encouragement and excitement. The skeptics turned their gazes toward each other, surprise etched across their faces. That fire, a spark ignited not just in her, but in everyone around her, was contagious. The energy in that room felt electric as the vision for their next steps came to life. Ideas flowed like water, and by the time they wrapped up, Sarah felt lighter, as if the weight of self-doubt had been lifted. Over the coming days, they launched their plans with zeal. The Connect a Friend booth expanded, attracting more attendees. Dinner nights sprouted, where stories blended with laughter and hearts opened like blooming flowers. Sarah witnessed the transformation. Strangers became friends, their walls crumbling, replaced by unbreakable bonds. But even as joy filled the air, Sarah's night still brought a sense of lingering apprehension. Who would show up for dinner night? Would the excitement last? Would they truly forge connections that stood strong against the tides of doubt? On the third dinner night, as the chairs filled and the scent of hearty stew wafted through the room, Sarah felt a swell of love and anticipation. Her heart danced as neighbors greeted one another with warmth. But the doubts quietly nagged. Would they come back? They shared stories as they dined, tales flowing seamlessly, pulling them deeper into connection. Mark sat across from her, engagement shining in his eyes, making her heart skip. "Sarah, look!" he exclaimed suddenly, motioning towards Mrs. Thompson, whose voice rang across the table. This is what it's all about. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes as she watched people openly share their life experiences. Laughter intertwined with memories, and as the night wore on, the room felt heavier with hope, lighter with connection. At the end of the event, amidst the departing chatter, Mark stepped closer. "You were right, you know. I doubted, but tonight, this was magical. We did it." But just then, doubt returned. The skeptic's whispers echoed in her mind. What if it doesn't last? What if something happens? "You okay, Sarah?" Mark's keen eyes searched hers, sensing the shift. "Yeah," she replied, but the weight hung around her. "It's just, I want us to keep this up. What if we can't sustain it?" Mark leaned in, his voice gentle but firm. "Believe in what we created. It's not about if it lasts, it's about the moments we've already built. Those lives we touched, they matter. You matter, and so do your fears. Let's just keep going." The sincerity of his words cut through her doubt as she took a deep breath, realizing he was right. One step at a time, they could navigate whatever lay ahead. At that moment, she chose belief over fear, connection over worry. They exited together, hearts uplifted, hoping for tomorrow. With each interaction, they would embrace the journey ahead. The questions didn't matter anymore, for they had each other, their community. Outside, the cool autumn breeze kissed her cheeks, and they walked forward into the unknown, hand in hand, ready to forge a future filled with love, connection, and unwavering hope. In that moment, Sarah realized she was not alone. They were a community rising together. And despite what shadows tried to loom, she faced it with a smile, because hope lived here, in Maplewood, forever blossoming. Now that you've experienced this heartwarming transformation, don't wait another second. You need to subscribe to our channel right now to not miss the next incredible stories we have in store. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm that helps us bring more inspiring tales to you. Leave your thoughts about this ending in the comments. Let's hear your reactions. And please share this video with at least 5 friends who need a reminder about the power of connection and community. Support us because you know only true fans understand the importance of standing together through these actions.